The firefighter had just finished his shift and was about to leave, but as Ho Chon walked through the hallway, he suddenly heard a strange sound coming from room 604. A bad feeling immediately arose. Ho Chon cautiously approached to check. Suddenly, the murderer rushed out like a cornered animal. Before Ho Chon could react, he was violently attacked by the murderer. The sharp pain blurred Ho Chon's vision, but Ho Chon still tried to hold the murderer back and quickly dialed the coin police number. That action made the murderer mad. He stabbed Ho Chon again, fatally. At that moment, the police siren sounded outside the building. Hearing the noise, the murderer ran away. Only then did Ho Chon look inside the room. This was the scene of a brutal murder. The murderer was treating murder as a work of art. He was a dangerous criminal named Ziggler Killer. The murderer had committed the crime in March and September last year, but the police were still struggling to catch him. At this time, Ho Chon was admitted to the hospital. When his wife heard the news, she immediately came to visit him. Fortunately, Ho Chon was still safe, but he almost became blind forever. Jung-hi advised Ho Chon that it was best for him to hide the fact that he could see. He should not stand up as a witness. Otherwise, the murderer would come and kill him to cover up the evidence. Jung-hi was no stranger to such people. However, Ho Chon did not agree. Since this was a case his wife was handling, he wanted to do something to help her. Moreover, Ho Chon could not let the murderer off the hook. He had to pay for his crimes. Jung-hi would still pursue the murderer, but she also did not want her family to be implicated. Because Jung-hi was not only a police officer, she was also a wife and a mother. If the murderer targets Ho Chon, even their child will be in danger. Ho Chon was gradually persuaded by his wife. He finally agreed to her request. After a long time, Ho Chon's eyes were completely healed. This made Jung-hi very excited. However, this could not be hidden from the reporters. A reporter came to Ho Chon to ask for news. He wanted to know about Ho Chon meeting the murderer, but before Ho Chon could answer, Jung-hi chased the reporter away. However, the reporter wrote an article saying that there was a witness who saw the murderer. He also put Ho Chon's picture in the newspaper, so the murderer discovered Ho Chon. That night, Ho Chon returned home. He realized that the murderer was there. The murderer controlled his wife and child, but before Ho Chon could react, the murderer immediately attacked both of them. The murderer said that it was Ho Chon's fault. Because Ho Chon had seen him, Ho Chon woke up in a panic and realized it was just a dream, but it was also a bad omen. At this time, Ho Chon remembered the past. In fact, he had not seen the killer's face clearly. If the killer really appeared, Ho Chon could only feel it spiritually. The next morning, Ho Chon went to the fire department. He had to take a leave of absence because his body had not fully recovered. At the same time, his daughter's birthday was coming up, so he wanted to stay home and prepare for his wife. Recently, Jung-hi was having trouble with a serial murder case. 3 cases happened consecutively in the past 2 years, but the police could not find any clues. They only knew that this killer was a psychopath. He often targeted young girls. He forced the girls to participate in a crazy game, asking them to chew up a glass plate in an extremely romantic setting. The girl's last tear fell. No one knew whether it was happiness or sadness. At this time, Ho Chon came to pick up his daughter, Sua. Then he took her home. On the way, the two of them accidentally met Shiu. He was Sua's art teacher. Shiu was also Ho Chon's neighbor, so he was not on guard against Shiu. But Sua was upset and wanted to take her father away. That afternoon, Ho Chon took Sua to Shiwu's room to study. He went back to his room to clean up, but Sua sneaked out and went to the chemical room in the basement parking lot. It turned out that Sua kept a cat there. Suddenly, a young man in black appeared, startling Sua. But it turned out that he was an acquaintance of hers. He was a security guard of the building named Dongju. He often helped Sua when she was bullied at school. At the same time, he also took care of the cat with her. Sua planned to convince her parents to let her keep a cat in the house on her upcoming birthday. Dongju was happy for her when he heard that. Suddenly, he received a phone call, so he had to leave first. Only Sua was left in the room. At this time, Ho Chon wanted to bring the scrap down to the basement, but unfortunately, he dropped the can. At that moment, Shiwu came and helped him pick it up. Shiwu also wanted to help Ho Chon carry it to the elevator. While waiting for the elevator, the two talked. Ho Chon praised that people who draw well often have beautiful hands like Shiwu. When Shiwu heard that, he mentioned Sua and praised her hands as a masterpiece. Ho Chon did not pay attention to Shiwu's excitement, but looked at the paintings. Ho Chon asked to see those paintings, but Shiwu refused because he had not finished painting yet. He promised to show Ho Chon next time. When the elevator arrived, Shiwu wanted to help Ho Chon bring the scrap down to the basement, but Ho Chon stopped her and reminded her that Sua was waiting for Shiwu to teach her drawing in the room. Shiwu heard that and had to go back first. Inside the room, Sua was attentively drawing a portrait based on an existing photo. Shiwu praised Sua for her improvement. He promised to bring a real model next time. When Suah drew the lips, she still didn't know how to choose the right color. Unexpectedly, Shiwu directly took his blood and drew it on the picture. He thought that the more realistic something was, the more attractive it was. Suah felt scared when she saw that. Although Shi'ah had known he was a pervert for a long time, she didn't expect him to go to this extent. After Ho Chon brought the scrap metal down to the basement, he returned to the elevator and found his wife talking to a woman. She knew Jung-hi was a police officer, so she wanted Jung-hi to investigate Dongju. Because the woman thought he was a murderer, it turned out that Dongju had a criminal record, but at the moment, the woman had no evidence, so Jung-hi couldn't conduct the investigation on her own. The woman left angrily, leaving a message that he would not regret until he killed someone. After that, Ho Chon and his wife entered the elevator together. At this time, Ho Chon wondered about the person the woman had mentioned. Although Dongju had a criminal record, it was only for fraud and he had never hurt anyone. When Dongju arrived at the building to work, Jung-hi had also investigated very thoroughly. Because her family was living here, Ho Chon felt more secure when he heard that. The next day, Suah went out with a male classmate. The boy wanted to give her a phone because her birthday was coming up. However, she did not accept the gift. Seeing that, the boy wondered why she preferred to use 2G phones instead of modern 5G phones. Suah explained that it was a way to avoid being tracked and managed. 2G phones would not be located, but the boy had another question. What if one day the girl was kidnapped? When Suah wasn't paying attention, the boy secretly put his phone in her bag. When he saw that he wasn't discovered, he was extremely happy. At this time, someone came to report to the building manager that a woman in the room next door often played loud music, but she didn't close her room door. This caused trouble for other people's lives. A while later, the building manager went up to the woman's room. At this time, the music in the room was still loud, but the manager discovered that the woman was dead. The police quickly arrived at the scene. The victim had been dead for several days. On the wall was a picture drawn in blood. It depicted the victim's death pose. Captain Jang determined that the Ziggler Killer had struck again after a long period of silence. A reporter suddenly rushed in and asked what was going on here. Captain Jang was angry and ordered others to take reporter Choi out. Reporter Choi then reported to the newsroom that he was about to have a breaking news story. Ziggler Killer was back. At this time, Ho Chon was on his way back to the building when he saw many police cars coming there. Ho Chon was confused and didn't understand what was going on when he accidentally discovered Suah was with Dongju. At this time, Ho Chon remembered what the woman said the day before, that Dongju could be a murderer. Ho Chon immediately chased after his daughter and decided to stop her from being close to Dongju. Ho Chon dragged his daughter away. Dongju also left without understanding what was going on. Ho Chon asked why Suah was talking to a stranger. The girl said that Dongju was not a stranger. After she finished speaking, she angrily left. Ho Chon had to chase after Suah and apologize. Then he and the girl returned home. There were many police officers in front of the building. When Ho Chon and Suah entered the elevator, they heard gossip from the neighbors that the murderer he met 2 years ago had just committed a crime in the building. When the elevator stopped at the 15th floor where the crime took place, the two neighbors came out to see the situation. Ho Chon also wanted to follow them, so he told Suah to go upstairs and close the door carefully. Then he went to the crime scene alone. The image of the crime 2 years ago flooded his mind. That made him unable to stand. Luckily, Shiwu caught Ho Chon in time. After a while, the victim was carried out. After a long while, Ho Chon regained his composure. He and Shiwu waited for the elevator to go up to their room. At this time, Shiwu wondered how Ho Chon felt when he witnessed the murder twice. Ho Chon did not know how to answer. Just then the elevator arrived, so both of them stepped inside. At this time, Shiwu also confessed to Ho Chon that this was also the second time he nor witnessed a murder. The first time, he witnessed a murder in Cheongdong. That was where Shiwu lived about 3 years ago. That was also where Ziggler Killer first appeared. At present, Shiwu is no longer afraid of him. Both of them went to the 21st floor. Ho Chon is in room 2103. Shiwu is in the room opposite. Then the two of them returned to their rooms. On the other side, Captain Jang is analyzing a serial murder case. Ziggler Killer first appeared in Cheongdong on March 2018. Up to now, 4 victims have died. They are all beautiful and rich young women. The killer used their blood to draw pictures on the wall. The poses in the pictures correspond to the victim's death poses. The killer is mentally ill. He considers murder a form of artistic creation. No clues were left at the scene. This shows that the murderer was very careful. At this point, Captain Jang could only discover one unusual detail, which was the time of the crime. The previous 3 cases were usually several months apart. Everyone thought that the Ziggler Killer had disappeared, but after 2 years, he returned. As long as the police found the cause, they could track down Ziggler Killer. Jung-hi sat on the side listening, feeling extremely awkward because her husband might be dragged into this case. That night, when Jung-hi returned home, she asked about her daughter's situation. Then she sat down to talk with her husband. Jung-hi reminded Ho Chon that tomorrow the police would take statements from the people living in the building. Ho Chon might be questioned first because he had witnessed the murder twice. Jung-hi remained firm. She wanted her husband to say that he knew nothing, so that their family could continue to live peacefully. Ho Chon understood his wife's intentions, so he also knew what he had to do. In the near future, will join the special investigation team to catch the Ziggler Killer, so she may not be home for a while. Jung-hi wants her husband to take care of their daughter. That is also Ho Chon's responsibility. The two hugged each other before parting. The next day was Sua's birthday. Ho Chon had prepared some delicious food to celebrate, but Sua did not want to stay home because this year she did not have her mother. Moreover, Sua also had other plans. When she left the house, Ho Chon wanted to see her off to the subway, but after the two of them had walked a distance, Ho Chon remembered that he had forgotten to bring his daughter's birthday present. Ho Chon wanted Sua to wait while he went back to get it, but as soon as Ho Chon left, he discovered Dongju approaching Sua. But Ho Chon thought there was no problem, so he continued to return home. When Ho Chon found the gift he had prepared for his daughter, he happily brought it to her. But when he arrived, he found that his daughter was no longer waiting for him. He called his daughter to ask her, but she did not answer. While Ho Chon was worried and looking around, he suddenly found Sua's phone in his pocket. Ho Chon remembered the man he had bumped into earlier. It was the man who left his phone. Suddenly, an unknown number called Sua's phone. The person on the other end of the line informed him that they were holding Ho Chon's daughter. They asked him to go to the parking lot to find his daughter. Although Ho Chon did not understand what was happening, he still had to do as asked. When he arrived at the parking lot, he saw a person using a backpack to signal that Sua was in the car. Ho Chon hurriedly chased after her, but he could not catch up, so he had to find another way to block the car. He was hit by the car, but he still tried to stand up. When he saw his daughter in the car, he desperately jumped up and grabbed the car. The driver accelerated and hit Ho Chon, sending him flying. Then he continued to drive away. Ho Chon quickly remembered the license plate number and immediately dialed the number to call the police. However, before Ho Chon could call, he received a call from an unknown number. Ho Chon thought the caller was the murderer. Because he was afraid that Ho Chon would give a statement to the police, the murderer wanted to capture Sua to threaten him. Ho Chon insisted that he did not remember the face of his small accomplice, so he would not say anything. However, the person on the other end of the line laughed. He said that he was not the Ziggler Killer. On the contrary, he was also looking for the murderer. The man forced Ho Chon to remember the face of the murderer. From now on, Ho Chon had to find the Ziggler Killer within 24 hours. If he did not find the murderer, he would not expect to see his daughter again. Ho Chon was extremely confused after hearing this. The person on the other end of the line hung up the phone. At this time, he was standing in the building observing Ho Chon. Who is this man anyway? 2 days ago, Taemin was still a prisoner. Because he possessed superior strength, he easily murdered his cellmate with just a towel. Then he faked the crime scene to make it look like he was doing something stupid. He himself slept soundly. However, early the next morning, Taemin was bailed out by his subordinates. He was a professional killer, and he spent his whole life in prison just to do assassinations. This time, Taemin was released from prison because of the return of Ziggler Killer. Before that, Taemin had been pursuing this murderer for a long time because the two had a deep grudge in the past. But the Ziggler Killer suddenly disappeared for 2 years. Taemin still believed that he would return. Finally, Taemin waited for the day to avenge his loved ones. It was the Ziggler Killer who murdered her. But at that time, his methods were different from now. Only Taemin realized that the perpetrator of the cases at that time was the same person. After the procedure was completed, Taemin was temporarily released. His subordinates delivered the goods and reminded him that this time, Taemin was released from prison because his father died, so he only had 3 days of freedom. After that, he had to return to prison. Since the third case 2 years ago, Taemin had guessed that the Ziggler Killer would appear next near Ho Chon. Therefore, Taemin specifically told his subordinates to prepare the building card. However, Taemin could not act freely because he was secretly followed by a police officer. On the way, Taemin tried to lose the police. He suddenly accelerated, so the police had to accelerate as well. Taemin suddenly turned the car. This made the police unexpected. Just like that, the police were left behind. After that, Taemin drove to the building. He used the card he had prepared in advance to press the elevator to go up to the floor, but he accidentally went with Ho Chon and Shi-woo. When Taemin heard the conversation between the two, he guessed that Ho Chon was the firefighter who had met the Ziggler Killer 2 years ago. Taemin carefully observed Ho Chon's residence before before going up to the attic room that his subordinates had prepared. There, Tae-min could see the building's security cameras. This place was no different from a security room. Tae-min needed to pay attention to the 21st floor where Ho Chon was, because he was the target to be monitored if he wanted to find the Ziggler Killer. After that, Tae-min went to meet a subordinate. That person was the driver who took Sua away. Tae-min had sent this person some money in advance so that he could carry out his plan the next day with peace of mind. When Tae-min returned to the building, the police who were assigned to monitor him came looking for him. Tae-min thought he had successfully shaken off the police, but the police had installed a location on his phone. The police reminded Tae-min that he had only a little more than a day left, so he better not act strangely. This is also the reason why Tae-min told Ho Chon to find Ziggler Killer within 24 hours. After that, Tae-min went up to the attic room. However, he disguised himself and sneaked around the stairs to the 21st floor. Tae-min was almost caught by Shiu, so Tae-min had to hide in the bathroom. The next morning was the day Ho Chon's daughter was kidnapped. Through the security camera, Tae-min discovered that she had gone out. He immediately called the driver to prepare for action. The driver was in a hurry and accidentally bumped into Shiu. Because of that, he dropped Sua's phone. Shiu discovered that there was a photo of Sua in the phone, so he immediately realized that this person was suspicious. The driver quickly left. He quickly went to where Sua was standing and injected her with an anesthetic. Then he took her to the parking lot. When Ho Chon returned and did not see his daughter, he panicked and went to look for her. He received a call from Tae-min, luring Ho Chon to the parking lot, but he still couldn't save his daughter. Ho Chon was also forced by Tae-min to participate in a 24-hour game of tag. If Ho Chon did as requested, Tae-min would return Sua intact within 10 minutes. Ho Chon had no choice but to do as Tae-min asked. The game started at 10 o'clock in the morning. Ho Chon had to go back to his room to wait. At 11 o'clock in the morning, Tae-min would send a mission to Ho Chon. However, Ho Chon remembered an important thing. Sua had met Dongju before she was kidnapped. Therefore, Ho Chon suspected that Dongju was involved in this case. Ho Chon decided to go find Dongju. Through the manager's words, Ho Chon learned that Dongju was checking the chemical room. Ho Chon immediately ran there, but the room was locked. He tried to break the door to get inside. After entering, he found that Dongju was collecting Sua's photos. Could he be a pervert stalker? Dongju had just arrived outside. He realized that someone had broken the door of the chemical room. Dongju carefully walked inside. Ho Chon suddenly rushed out with a stick and continuously attacked Dongju, but Dongju dodged all the attacks. The two fought for a while. Dongju was finally subdued by Ho Chon. Ho Chon asked Dongju where he had taken his daughter, but Dongju did not understand this question. When Dongju learned that Sua had been kidnapped, he was also very worried. Dongju tried to explain, but Ho Chon did not believe him. Because Dongju wanted to prove his innocence, he had to lead Ho Chon to the security room. Through the surveillance camera, Ho Chon realized that the person who had kidnapped Sua was not Dongju. After Dongju left, the kidnapper appeared. Ho Chon wished he could have arrived a little earlier. Dongju wished he hadn't left Sua at that time. But there is no medicine for regret in this world. The urgent thing now is to find Sua. Dongju promised to help Ho Chon as much as possible. Ho Chon was afraid that Dongju would be in danger, but Dongju was proud of his black belt. Moreover, he considered Sua as his sister. Dongju had deeply regretted that he could not protect his own sister in the past, so now he was determined to rescue Sua. Ho Chon had no choice but to let Dongju go with him. At the same time, Ho Chon also apologized for doubting Dongju before, but Dongju did not care about that. Then, he began to analyze. According to the kidnapper, if Ho Chon did as he asked, he would bring Sua back in 10 minutes. So Dongju suspected that the kidnapper had hidden Sua in the building. Otherwise, how could he dare to promise such a thing? Dongju pointed out the suspicious locations in the building, which were places where few people went, so those places were suitable for holding hostages. Then, the two of them went to the first location together. When they heard noises inside, they immediately rushed in. Ho Chon quickly grabbed someone, but Dongju recognized them. It was his colleague. Dongju told the two of them to go home first, and then reminded Ho Chon to calm down, because there were still many other places that had not been checked. Then the two of them continued their actions. Suddenly, Ho Chon remembered that Tae-min had promised to hand over the mission at 11 o'clock, so now he had to return to his room. Dongju would replace Ho Chon to look for Sua. Ho Chon gave Dongju his phone number to contact him. After that, Dongju went to the mechanical room alone. He searched in the dark for a while and accidentally discovered Sua's hair tie dropped on the ground. Dongju immediately texted Ho Chon to report this. When Ho Chon received the text, he rushed to the mechanical room. Unexpectedly, Dongju was being controlled by Tae-min. Tae-min called Ho Chon and claimed to be the kidnapper. Tae-min looked at his watch and realized that Ho Chon did not accept the mission on time. This meant that Ho Chon did not care about his daughter's life. Ho Chon was extremely panicked when he heard that. He suggested that they slowly negotiate, but Taemin did not agree. If Ho Chon wanted to negotiate, he would have to pay the price for his wrongdoings first. Unexpectedly, Dongju escaped from his control and attacked Taemin with a baton, but Dongju could not defeat a professional killer, so he was stabbed by Taemin a few times. Dongju accidentally recognized Taemin, so he was stabbed by Taemin fatally. Then he was thrown out of the arena. Ho Chon quickly blew out the smoke and took Dongju away. He turned on the alarm, causing the door to the mechanical room to close. Ho Chon quickly pulled Dongju through the door. Taemin was locked inside. Then both of them tried to escape, but Dongju was too badly injured, so Ho Chon took off his shirt to cover Dongju's wound. Dongju wanted to say Taemin's name, but he couldn't. At that moment, there were footsteps outside. Ho Chon wanted to call for help, but unexpectedly, it was Taemin. Taemin told Ho Chon that this was the result he had to receive when he didn't follow the request. Dongju's sacrifice gave Ho Chon a second chance. He had to take advantage of it to save his daughter. At this time, Ho Chon realized how scary Taemin was, so he promised not to disobey Taemin's words again. Taemin returned Sua's phone to Ho Chon. Now, Ho Chon's mission is to find Ziggler Killer and kill him. At this time, the special investigation team held a meeting. Captain Jang gave an analysis of Ziggler Killer. Captain Jang could not determine his identity because he had never shown his face. Through the security camera at the crime scene that had just happened, the police noticed that the killer was still fully dressed and did not reveal any features. He also made provocative actions in front of the security camera. Captain Jang could only detect one detail. The shirt that Ziggler Killer was wearing was from the Guzu shipping company. The police would start investigating from this clue. They had to act as quickly as possible because Ziggler Killer would continue to hide after 48 hours of committing the crime. After the meeting ended, Captain Jang divided the work among everyone. Jung-hi still could not integrate into the team. At this time, Detective Oh came to talk to her. He knew that Ho Chon had met Ziggler Killer, so he wanted to ask Jung-hi if Ho Chon remembered anything. Jung-hi understood what Detective Oh meant. It seemed like he thought Ho Chon was deliberately hiding information, but Jung-hi insisted that her husband could not remember Ziggler Killer's face. The police had been questioning Ho Chon for a year. This had greatly affected his life. Jung-hi did not want her husband to continue to be bothered. Detective Oh was still stubborn and wanted to know where Ho Chon was. This made Jung-hi extremely angry. Luckily, at this moment, female Inspector Minso arrived to calm the situation. She used to be Jung-hi's superior. Minso had been chasing the killer for 3 years. Now she joined the special investigation team. Minso was determined to catch Ziggler Killer. Jung-hi was rescued and followed Minso out. Unexpectedly, Minso also wanted to probe Jung-hi's information about Ziggler Killer. Jung-hi considers Minso a friend, so she is willing to tell the details. What Jung-hi noticed was that the victim's body parts had disappeared from the crime scenes. She thought that Ziggler Killer deliberately kept them to create a collection. Minso also noticed this. If the body parts were kept for display, they must be kept clean with specialized chemicals. This could be a reasonable direction for investigation. Jung-hi suggested another direction, that Ziggler Killer always left blood paintings at the crime scene. This showed that he was someone who liked to create art, so the police could find an experienced artist. They would ask the artist to analyze the blood paintings. Minso would return to the team to report. Jung-hi also said goodbye to Minso here. Then Jung-hi returned to the office. She wanted to call and ask about her husband and daughter, but he did not answer the phone. This made Jung-hi have a bad feeling. At this time, Shiu was cleaning the room to prepare to move. There were strange paintings in the room. They were very similar to the victim's postures. There were also pictures of the murdered girls on the wall. Unexpectedly, Shiu was the terrifying Ziggler Killer. His next target was Ho Chon's daughter, but she was currently kidnapped. At this time, Shiu only smiled mysteriously. Back to the case involving Taemin's daughter, Shiu approached her and started a love relationship. He murdered the girl when she was at her happiest. This made her die unwillingly. When Shiu finished committing the crime, footsteps were heard outside. It was Taemin who had returned. Shiu reported to the police that a murder had just occurred. Then he escaped from the room. When the police arrived, only Taemin was at the scene, so of course he became the murderer. Taemin had his daughter and freedom taken away by Shiu, so he was determined to take revenge. At this time, Ho Chon sat next to Dongju's body. He regretted dragging Dongju into this, but now, Ho Chon didn't have much time left. The most important thing was to rescue Sua. Ho Chon called a colleague in the fire department. He asked his colleague to come and take Dongju's body away. Only then did Ho Chon leave that place. On his way home, Ho Chon received a text message from his wife. Because Jung-hi called him but couldn't get through, she decided to return return home. Ho Chon was very worried when he heard the news because he was afraid that his wife would be caught in danger. Ho Chon hurriedly ran back to his room to prepare. In the elevator, Ho Chon met someone, but he didn't recognize it as Tae-min. He was worried that he would be discovered with bloodstains all over his body. Unfortunately, Ho Chon dropped his phone. Kind Tae-min helped him pick it up. Ho Chon even thanked him. Then Ho Chon bowed and exited the elevator without realizing that Tae-min was laughing. Tae-min was still holding Sua's hair tie. Later, Ho Chon returned to the room and immediately called his wife. He told her that she didn't need to go home. He pretended that everything was fine to reassure her. That made her change her mind. On the other side, Sua's kidnapper received a call from Tae-min. Tae-min had left the money in the car, so he just needed to take the money. Then he would forget everything that happened today. However, the kidnapper wondered what Tae-min would do to Sua. Tae-min didn't answer that question. The kidnapper was very worried because he was also Tae-min's accomplice, because he was afraid that Tae-min would harm innocent people. At this time, the police came to investigate the building, but after a long search, they finally found an occupied room. Shiwoo was inside playing loud music. Detective Oh went to knock on the door, and Shiwoo opened it for the two of them to enter. He had finished cleaning the room. There were no clues left in the room now. After the police entered the building, they wanted to take Shiwoo's statement on the day of the crime in the building. Shiwoo answered in a nonchalant manner. Did the Ziggler Killer do it so that the witness could see it? Minso asked what Shiwoo was mumbling. Shiwoo put on a fake face and said that he would tell everything he knew. Detective Oh started asking questions. Shiwoo admitted that he and the victim knew each other. When he moved into the building 7 months ago, his arm was in a cast. Mi-kyung saw this and came to his aid. He told her a story in the book, The Silence of the Lambs. In the story, there was a man who pretended to have an injured arm and asked a woman for help, but in reality, he was a serial killer. When the woman wasn't paying attention, he used his cast to beat her to death. Mi-kyung was a bit scared when she heard that, but she thought that this could only be a joke of Shiwoo. Shiwoo also admitted that he did so because he wanted to attract Mi-kyung's attention. Shiwoo successfully approached Mi-kyung. The second time Shiwoo met her was in the gym. He wanted to invite her to eat to thank her for her help last time. She agreed without hesitation, but she did not know that this would be her last meal. Shiwoo invited Mi-kyung to eat glass. She cried and begged for her life, but she still could not escape her tragic fate. Back to reality, Shiwoo told the police that he and Mi-kyung had only met 3 times. His face showed regret and excitement. Shiwoo said that they seemed to like each other, but unfortunately Mi-kyung was no longer in this world. Shiwoo's testimony was perfect, but it still made Minso feel suspicious. She pretended to ask where the restroom was. Then she went to explore the room. There were many deodorizers in there. Minso remembered Jung-hi's argument about preserving the victim's body. Shiwoo's deliberate attempt to hide the painting made Minso even more certain that he had a problem. After Minso and Detective Oh left the room, she told him to investigate Shiwoo further. At this time, Ho Chon was sitting waiting for Tae-min's next mission. Suddenly, the manager rang the doorbell. He said that someone had sent something to Ho Chon. The manager also said that this was very important. Ho Chon took it and quickly closed the door. Then, he opened the package to check. Inside was a black suit with someone's business card. He tried to dial the phone number, but no one answered. He angrily crushed the business card and turned to look at the camera. He didn't know what to do next. Tae-min still hadn't assigned the task and was busy with other things. Tae-min changed into new clothes and went to a closed room in the building. He didn't expect Sua to be there. She was scared and called for help, but Tae-min signaled to keep quiet. Sua immediately understood and followed. Otherwise, she would be in danger. After that, Tae-min returned to the room to observe Ho Chon. When he realized that the police were coming, Tae-min immediately reminded Ho Chon that he had the right to change his decision now. But if he called the police, he wouldn't be able to see his daughter again. Ho Chon was very hesitant in this awkward situation. He was about to open the door, but he changed his mind at the last minute. This made Tae-min very satisfied. When the police didn't open the door, they had to leave. After that, Tae-min wanted Ho Chon to change into the clothes he had just received. Then, he had to start looking for Ziggler Killer. But Ho Chon objected. Tae-min kept using Sua to threaten Ho Chon. He said he would not return the girl. But Tae-min did not say clearly whether he would return a living person or a soulless body. Ho Chon suspected Tae-min of harming Sua. He needed to confirm whether his daughter was alive or dead. Tae-min laughed because someone dared to order him. Ho Chon took out the notebook in which he had sketched the Ziggler Killer. If Ho Chon burned it, all clues about the killer would disappear. Tae-min had no other choice, so he let Ho Chon hear Sua's voice. However, after Ho Chon heard it, he still burned the notebook. From now on, Ho Chon was the only one who could identify the Ziggler Killer. If anything happened to his daughter, he would immediately cancel the cooperation. Ho Chon asked Tae-min to send proof that Sua was still alive every hour. Even though Taemin was very angry, he still had to agree to that request. Ho Chon also had to set out to find the Ziggler Killer immediately. After Ho Chon changed his clothes, he received his first mission from Taemin. He sketched out the killer's portrait in his memory. Then he left the room alone. Taemin relied on the security camera footage and recounted Ziggler Killer's movements. When the Ziggler Killer came to the building and killed people, his actions seemed very smooth. So Taemin asked Ho Chon if he could guess anything. When Ho Chon heard that question, he realized something important. Maybe the killer lived in the building. At this time, Jung-hi brought the Ziggler Killer case file to Captain Jang. When he learned that she had also been involved in this case, he wondered if she had found anything. She recounted what she had said to Minso. Captain Jang also told Jung-hi that his discovery was a gap in the time of the crime. When Jung-hi had a new discovery, she quickly called to meet Minso. After Minso returned, Jung-hi began to analyze the gap in time between the crime. That was when Ziggler Killer looked for a new target. He would spend about 1 to 2 months following the victim. Then, he would approach and get to know her. Ziggler Killer needed another 2 to 3 months to gain the victim's trust. Finally, he would brutally murder the victim. Ziggler Killer would feel happy when he completed his game. Jung-hi's calculations showed that the killer needed 6 to 7 months to murder a victim. The first 3 cases completely matched this theory. However, from the 3rd case to the 4th case, the gap between the crime was up to 2 years. According to Jung-hi's speculation, there might still be other victims during that time. Or during that time, Ziggler Killer had something more important than murder. After the meeting ended, Jung-hi met Minso privately to give a clue. Based on the analysis in the meeting just now, Jung-hi suspected that Ziggler Killer was the one who moved to the building about 6 to 7 months ago. When Minso heard that, she immediately remembered Shiwu. In the morning when she took her statement, he gave her a very strange feeling. Minso also investigated Shiwu. However, she still returned to the scene again. Jung-hi accidentally discovered that Minso had forgotten something. Jung-hi wanted to chase after Minso to give it to her, but Jung-hi unfortunately bumped into reporter Choi. She was still angry about the previous incident. He posted false news about Ho Chon seeing Ziggler Killer's face. This caused a lot of trouble for her family. Reporter Choi claimed that he was helping the police. He gave Jung-hi a hint by asking her why she still hadn't realized the reason the killer appeared in her building. When Jung-hi heard that, she understood something. Could it be that the Ziggler Killer's real target was her family? At this time, Shiwu carried his luggage and put it in the trunk. He was preparing to move to another place when he accidentally discovered that the masked man from last time was holding Sua's photo. Shiwu called her, but the person who answered the phone was Ho Chon. Shiwu seemed to be wondering where Sua was, but Ho Chon wanted to hide the fact that his daughter was kidnapped, so he said that she had gone to her grandmother's house for a few days. Shiwu seemed to regret that he could not say goodbye to his student. When Ho Chon learned that Shiwu was about to move, he immediately asked why, but Shiwu only replied that he had finished his work here. Moreover, he felt that this building was a bit boring. Shiwu came here because he thought there would be something interesting, but the result was not as he expected. Because Ho Chon did not recognize Shiwu, he did not understand the meaning of these words. So Ho Chon said goodbye to Shiwu on behalf of his daughter. But suddenly, Shiwu changed his mind. He wanted to do something interesting in this building. At the same time, Shiwu wanted to wait for Sua to come back because he wanted her to witness the painting he had drawn. After that, Shiwu said goodbye to Ho Chon and left. Suddenly, Ho Chon remembered his speculation about the murderer. That person considered killing people as fun. The reason the murderer drew the paintings at the scene was because he wanted others to witness his masterpiece. Ho Chon began to suspect Shiwu, so Ho Chon secretly followed Shiwu. At this time, Minso returned to Shiwu's room, but he was no longer there. She went down to the lobby to ask the manager about Shiwu's personality. The manager praised Shiwu. The manager thought that he was both polite and kind. Shiwu was also known as the angel artist because he taught painting for free to children who had a passion. Minso thought carefully, but she still felt that this was not the real Shiwu. At this time, a colleague from the fire department went to the place Ho Chon had indicated. He discovered Dongju's body. He was shocked and immediately reported to the police. When the police received the notice, they were extremely confused. They wondered why the Ziggler Killer would attack a man. Captain Jang speculated that this might just be an accidental death in Ziggler Killer's plan. The special investigation team still had to take over this case, so Captain Jang immediately sent his subordinates to the scene. Things were getting more and more complicated. The police were on command at the scene. The subordinate that Taemin had sent to deal with the body arrived later than the police. At this time, Taemin began to feel worried. If the police found out the truth, he would no longer have a chance to take revenge on the Ziggler Killer. At the scene, the police saw the coat that Ho Chon had covered Dongju. There was a concert ticket in the pocket. It was a birthday present that Ho Chon prepared for his daughter. The police sent someone to confirm the DNA on the jacket. They wanted to know who bought the ticket. Not long after, the police got the results. The results were immediately brought to the special investigation team to report. Jung-hi was very surprised when she read the results, because now her husband had become a suspect. Reporter Choi was gossiping and spreading false news that Ho Chon was the murderer. This made him have to find a way to hide. At this time, Ho Chon was extremely confused. He did not know what to do next, because his image was all over the press. At this time, Ho Chon suddenly received a phone call from his wife, but he did not dare to answer. Jung-hi was very worried when she could not call him. At that moment, Captain Jang returned and was very angry. He asked why everyone had leaked the information, but when Captain Jang saw reporter Choi's face, he could only sigh. He felt helpless in this situation. Captain Jang ordered the team members that they must quickly catch the suspect. Otherwise, the people would doubt the police's ability. Everyone immediately split up to act. Captain Jang wanted to meet Jung-hi alone. According to the rules, when a police officer has a family member involved in a case, that person must withdraw from the investigation. But Ho Chon was only a suspect. Moreover, Jung-hi trusted her husband very much, so she wanted to prove his innocence. But Captain Jang quickly interrupted and thought that Jung-hi would be influenced by emotions. However, she still insisted on participating in this case. At this time, Captain Jang had no choice but to give up his intention. However, he would always follow her closely. After Jung-hi left Captain Jang's room, she went to take a statement from the firefighter who reported the case. Pan Sok was called to the crime scene by Ho Chon. He didn't tell the police anything, but he told Jung-hi in detail. Oan Seok thought that Ho Chon was not the murderer. Oan Seok thought that Ho Chon was not the murderer. On the contrary, he wanted to save the victim, because there were signs of using something to cover the wound to prevent the blood from flowing out. No murderer would stab the victim multiple times and then cover each spot. This confirmed that there was someone else at the scene besides Ho Chon. The place where the victim's body was found was not the first scene of the case, because there was very little blood. When Jung-hi learned this information, she promised Pan Sok that she would find a way to clear her husband's name. Then Jung-hi left the interrogation room. At this time, Ho Chon was still on the run, but he suddenly received a call from Tae-min. Tae-min wanted Ho Chon to continue searching for the Ziggler Killer and not to sit still. Ho Chon was afraid that he would be caught before he met the murderer. Tae-min then reminded Ho Chon to look at the gift he sent. Ho Chon discovered a black box that someone left behind. Inside was a fingernail. Ho Chon was very worried when he saw this. This was what Tae-min wanted to send. It proved that Ho Chon's daughter was still alive. If Ho Chon didn't act, Tae-min would give him a bigger gift. Ho Chon begged not to hurt Sua. Ho Chon would listen to Tae-min's arrangement. Tae-min asked Ho Chon to get up and leave. Ho Chon was forced to move. He took a hat to disguise himself. The first person Ho Chon remembered was Shi-woo, so Ho Chon had to go find him first. At this time, Minso returned to the crime scene. There, she discovered something strange on the blood painting. Minso took out the photo that the police took when they first arrived at the scene. After comparing it, she realized that the painting on the wall had a few new strokes. Minso immediately called the police guarding the scene to question her. She wanted to know if anyone had broken in. Unexpectedly, Shi-woo had been to the scene and used his own blood to add color to the painting. Shi-woo wanted his masterpiece to be perfect. However, that left an important clue for the police. Minso took a blood sample from the wall and brought it back for DNA testing. Unexpectedly, Minso received a call from Jung-hi. Jung-hi wanted to ask Minso for help with something. After that, Minso went to Ho Chon's room. The police were searching the room. They later found a bloody shirt there. Besides, there were no clues related to the case. It seemed that Ho Chon deliberately left the shirt because he wanted to confirm that he was the culprit. There must be something hidden in this story. Detective Oh suspected that Jung-hi knew what her husband wanted to do, but she did not report it. However, Minso warned Detective Oh not to make any wild guesses. The police then found another clue, a hidden camera in the room. Someone was watching Ho Chon's family. This was not normal. The spy camera was definitely involved in the case. Ho Chon might be being manipulated by him. At this time, Jung-hi went to the forensic room to examine Dongju's body. She realized that the stab wounds were from a professional killer. On Jung-hi's way back, she reported this to Captain Jang. He had no idea about this, but he did not want to lose face, so he said that the police were investigating the matter. Captain Jang asked Jung-hi not to act on her own. He told her to return immediately. Jung-hi angrily hung up the phone when she heard this, but she suddenly received another call. Minso reported the findings at Jung-hi's house. When she learned that her family was being watched, she was extremely worried. She did not know what her husband had gotten himself into. Her daughter was also not at home. So where is Sua? Jung-hi decides to go home. At this this time, Ho Chon is still following Shiwu. Shiwu goes to a coffee shop and approaches a beautiful girl. He thinks she is his next target, but unexpectedly, Shiwu chases the girl to another table. He must sit at this table. It turns out, Shiwu is remembering the moment when Mi-kyung was happy. At that time, she was not on guard against him. He goes through every place that has memories with the victim. He is enjoying the feeling of victory after each successful kill. Ho Chon is still following Shiwu. Ho Chon sees Shiwu smiling to himself. He doesn't know if this guy has any mental problems or not. Suddenly, Shiwu turns around and he discovers Ho Chon. Ho Chon quickly avoids Shiwu's eyes, but when Ho Chon looks back, Shiwu has disappeared. Ho Chon quickly goes out to look for him. Taemin asks Ho Chon if Shiwu is the Ziggler Killer, but Ho Chon was not sure. Ho Chon had to find Shiwu first, but Shiwu suddenly appeared. Ho Chon saw that and immediately hung up. Shiwu still acted cheerful, even though he knew Ho Chon was following him. Shiwu realized that Ho Chon was suspicious of him, so he allowed Ho Chon to ask questions. He would answer everything honestly. Ho Chon asked if they had met 2 years ago. Shiwu shook his head at Ho Chon's question. The exact time was 2 years, 2 months, and 12 days. Ho Chon was about to ask more questions, but Shiwu reminded him to run away because the police were surrounding the place. Ho Chon immediately ran away, and the police also quickly chased after him. However, they lost track of Ho Chon. At this time, Taemin received a text message. After that, he immediately left the room. It turned out that the kidnapper was watching Sua, but he suddenly received news that his wife was premature birth, so he quickly left his post. Sua had untied herself beforehand. She was just waiting for this opportunity to escape from the room. Sua was scared and groped for the exit in the dark tunnel, but she still bravely moved forward. But because of exhaustion, she fainted in the tunnel. A while later, the kidnapper returned, but he could not find Sua. He was scared and quickly fled, but he could not escape Taemin's pursuit. He knelt down and begged for forgiveness. Taemin let him hear his wife's voice. His wife had given birth successfully, and this was all thanks to Taemin's support for hospital fees. He should have completed his mission well. He wanted a chance to correct his mistakes, but Taemin just kept silent and said nothing. At this time, Shiwu returned to the building. Through the manager's words, he knew that Minso was looking for him. At this time, Shiwu realized that Minso had investigated the truth. Just then, Minso stepped out. Shiwu quickly left first. Minso spotted him and immediately chased after him. She did not directly arrest him, but only silently observed. At this time, Ho Chon had also escaped the police's pursuit, so he turned back to follow Shiwu. Because Ho Chon realized that Minso was also following Shiwu, he only dared to watch from afar. Shiwu also knew that someone was following him, so he lured Minso onto the train. Then he suddenly disappeared. Luckily, she still realized it in time, so she got off before the train departed. When Minso saw Shiwu marking on the map, she felt extremely confused. Only when he left did she go to check. Minso did not expect that the marked locations corresponded to the crime scenes of 4 cases. In addition, there was another location marked with a question mark. At this time, Minso remembered what Jung-hi had said, that maybe during the 2 years of hiding, the perpetrator would still attack other victims. Minso continued to follow Shiwu, but she suddenly received a call from Jung-hi. Jung-hi had made a new discovery about the case, but Minso was currently chasing the suspect, so she didn't have time to talk to Jung-hi. So Minso immediately hung up. When Jung-hi heard that Minso had found the suspect, she quickly reported it to the special investigation team. Captain Jong asked about Minso's location, but she hung up without saying anything. Captain Jong had someone locate Minso. The rest of the team gathered. They prepared to leave to capture the suspect. The police quickly found Minso's location. Everyone quickly set off. Jung-hi was ordered to stay on duty. If Minso contacted her again, Jung-hi had to immediately report to Captain Jang. At this time, Minso had followed Shiwu to the container yard. She didn't know that he was deliberately leading her. Minso was lured into the container. There was a suit from the Guzu shipping company. This was the suit the murderer wore when he committed the crime in the building. At this moment, Minso no longer had any doubts. She was sure that Shiwu was the Ziggler Killer. Suddenly, he appeared in front of her. At this time, Ho Chon also followed them to the container yard, but he lost track of Minso. At this moment, he suddenly heard gunshots. The sound made him extremely worried. Ho Chon hurriedly went to find Minso. The police also quickly arrived at the scene. They split up to search for Minso everywhere. At the container, Minso was lying injured on the ground. Shiwu approached with a knife and said that today was supposed to be his happy day. But why did Minso ruin it? Shiwu angrily stabbed Minso in the stomach, but she still believed that if anything happened to her, the police would definitely catch Shiwu. He showed no fear and said that if the police were really that good, they would have caught him a long time ago. Then Shiwu pressed on the wound, causing Minso's blood to flow out. Minso was in so much pain, but she refused to beg. Minso mocked Shiwu, saying that that he was just a devil who thought he was an artist. That statement touched Shiwoo's heart. He held his head in pain and shouted, "Everyone shut up." Then Shiwoo declared that he would show Minso what a real devil is. Shiwoo's scream alerted Ho Chon. He picked up a stick and went into the container. Ho Chon saw that Shiwoo had killed Minso. He also used her blood to paint on the wall. Ho Chon rushed to attack Shiwoo, but he easily counterattacked and knocked Ho Chon down. Shiwoo intended to kill Ho Chon, but he heard the sound of a police car. Captain Jang signaled to turn off the siren because the siren would alert the killer to run away. Shiwoo smiled and left. Ho Chon wanted to chase after Shiwoo, but he couldn't bear to leave Minso because she was in critical condition. Ho Chon decided to give first aid to Minso, but the result was in vain. At this time, Ho Chon felt extremely helpless, so he had to carry Minso out of the car. At this moment, the police arrived. Ho Chon wanted to call an ambulance for Minso, but the police considered catching the suspect more important than saving people. Ho Chon accidentally became a substitute for the murderer. When Taemin witnessed all of that, he could only smile, because Ho Chon's situation was no different from his before. Finally, Taemin also knew who the Ziggler Killer was. Catching him was only a matter of time. This was Taemin's biggest problem. At this time, Ho Chon was taken to the police station. He did not answer any questions from reporters because he could not calm down after the recent incident. When Ho Chon met his wife again, he did not know what to say to her. In the interrogation room, the police asked him to hand over all his personal belongings, and he agreed to do so. But his phone suddenly rang. At this time, Ho Chon remembered Taemin's words. If Taemin called and Ho Chon didn't answer, he would send a part of Sua's body. Ho Chon wanted to get the phone back. Although the police officer didn't understand Ho Chon's attitude, he still returned the phone to Ho Chon. After the police officer left, Ho Chon answered the phone. Taemin wanted to know who the Ziggler Killer was. Ho Chon made a condition that as long as he could confirm that his daughter was safe, he would reveal the name of the Ziggler Killer. Taemin had to find a way to let Ho Chon out so he could catch the Ziggler Killer himself. Currently, only Ho Chon could recognize the killer, so Taemin had to accept this condition. He hung up and called someone else and asked if the other person had found Sua. The person on the other end of the line seemed helpless. This made Taemin extremely angry. A moment later, the police officer returned to question Ho Chon. They have evidence against him for murder, but he refuses to say anything. He just asks to see his wife. Meanwhile, Jung-hi is watching the news. Reporter Choi gives out nonsense information that Ho Chon is an accomplice of Ziggler Killer. Jung-hi is very angry when she hears this but can't do anything. At this time, Captain Jang comes and informs that Ho Chon wants to see Jung-hi. She immediately goes to the interrogation room to talk to her husband. At this time, a person suddenly comes to the police station. He is the one who kidnapped Sua. He was given a chance by Taemin to redeem himself. He confesses that he is the one who killed Dongju. He even brought the murder weapon to hand over to the police. Inside the interrogation room, Taemin calls Ho Chon to inform him that he has finished everything, so Ho Chon should have a good meal and go find Ziggler Killer. A moment later, the police bring food to Ho Chon. Ho Chon followed Taemin's instructions and ate everything. Unexpectedly, the food was poison. Ho Chon was rushed to the emergency room. However, the driver in the car was Taemin. The car was driven to an empty lot. Taemin knocked out the police officer who was with him, then injected Ho Chon with the antidote. Thanks to that, Ho Chon gradually regained consciousness. Ho Chon took the suitcase. It contained things that could help him kill the killer. Inside the suitcase was a gun full of bullets. Taemin called Ho Chon and reminded him that this was his last chance. He had to find and kill Ziggler Killer if he didn't want him to kill anyone else. When Ho Chon remembered Ziggler Killer's victims, he began to feel a strong determination. This time, he would end the nightmare that had lasted for the past 24 hours. After Ho Chon left, Taemin got out of the car. His subordinates wondered why he didn't kill Ziggler Killer himself to get revenge. Taemin explains that he wanted to let Ziggler Killer feel the humiliation of being killed by a normal person. That's what Taemin wanted to see. Because the Ziggler Killer was a man with a very high sense of honor, he couldn't bear to lose to an ordinary person. At this time, Shiwoo was cleaning up to prepare to leave the house, but he still couldn't forget Sua and her wonderful hands. He wished he could see that girl again. Unexpectedly, God granted the wish of a villain. When Shiwoo went down to the underground parking lot, he accidentally heard a cry for help. Sua had just woken up from a coma. She was banging on the door looking for help. When Sua saw Shiwoo, she thought she was saved. Sua didn't know that the next time was an even bigger nightmare for her. Shiwoo just led Sua away. When Shiwoo discovered that Ho Chon was pointing a gun at him, he just smiled. When Ho Chon realized that his daughter was with Shiwoo, he was extremely confused. But Ho Chon couldn't shoot because the knife was pressed against Sua. Shiwoo led Sua to the car and called Ho Chon to inform him that he would take her to rest because she was very tired and scared. She was sleeping soundly. Ho Chon angrily realized realized that this was a trick of Shiwu. Ho Chon warned that if anything happened to Sua, Shiwu would have to pay with his life, but he just laughed at that threat. After Shiwu took Sua to a safe place, he promised to call Ho Chon back. Then Shiwu drove away. Ho Chon also quickly took a delivery man's car to chase after him. Only when Shiwu had to stop because of a red light did Ho Chon have a chance to approach him, but Shiwu ran the red light, so Ho Chon quickly turned back to get his car and continued chasing Shiwu. He came across a group of people walking across the street. Shiwu still rushed through, but because Ho Chon wanted to avoid the group of people, he unfortunately had an accident. As a result, Ho Chon was left behind by Shiwu. Suddenly, Ho Chon received a message from Shiwu. Shiwu asked Ho Chon to go to the rooftop of the gaming building. There, Shiwu would let Ho Chon meet his daughter. Ho Chon received the message and hurriedly left. On the other side, Taemin received a message containing a photo of Shiwu. Only then did he realize that Ziggler Killer was the person he met in the elevator. Taemin finally understood why Shiwu was always with Ho Chon. Shiwu even rented a room across from Ho Chon. Taemin went to Shiwu's room. After Taemin used a special device to break the door, he successfully broke in. Taemin went around to check and discovered the paintings that Shiwu left behind. Ziggler Killer had sketched the body parts he had taken from the victims. Taemin found an unpainted painting. The time written on it was today. The killer's target was Ho Chon's daughter. Taemin laughed out loud when he heard this. He called his subordinates to order them to hack the security cameras. Taemin couldn't let Shiwu continue playing such a fun game. Taemin wanted to play with Shiwu. At this time, Shiwu led Sua to a damp room. She wanted to go home, but he forced her inside. He took out the tools to prepare to create another masterpiece. This made Sua feel scared. At this moment, Shiwu received a notification that someone had broken into his house. So Shiwu decided to go back to deal with Taemin. Then he would come back to continue finishing his work. Shiwu told Sua not to go anywhere. However, as soon as he left, she immediately looked for a way to escape. She accidentally saw Shiwu's works. This made her scared and run away. But he suddenly turned back and warned that if she ran away again, he would kill her. Sua was scared and immediately sat still when she heard this. Shiwu locked the door before leaving. As soon as Shiwu went outside, he was discovered by Ho Chon. Shiwu drove after Shiwu. The two returned to the building. Shiwu was still happily asking the police, but after Shiwu entered the room, he discovered that Taemin was not there. This made Shiwu feel regretful, but at this time, he accidentally discovered that his masterpieces had been touched by someone. Sua's photo was crumpled on the floor. Shiwu was angry and wanted Taemin to pay the price. At this time, Ho Chon was waiting for Shiwu outside. He held a stick to practice with in order to act later. Then Ho Chon hid and waited for the opportunity, but he suddenly received a text message. The other party asked him to go to room 1114. Ho Chon immediately left his position and went to the designated location, but he was suddenly knocked unconscious. When Ho Chon woke up, he realized that he was tied up. His pants were also taken off. Ho Chon was angry and wanted to know where Sua was, but Shiwu wanted Ho Chon to answer the question of who gave him the gun, because firefighters are not allowed to use guns. Shiwu realized that Ho Chon was being controlled by someone, but Ho Chon refused to admit it. He just wanted to find his daughter. Shiwu angrily stabbed Ho Chon in the leg. Ho Chon thought that Shiwu did these things because he was discovered. Ho Chon wanted Shiwu to kill him in exchange for Sua's life, but Ho Chon smiled evilly. Shiwu told Ho Chon to remember that he was the Ziggler Killer. Killing men only dirty his hands. Shiwu would turn Sua into a masterpiece. However, Shiwu wondered why Ho Chon wanted to die in place of his daughter. Isn't it better to live for yourself? Ho Chon taught Shiwu about the meaning of family. Family members will do anything for each other, even risk their lives. Ho Chon's answer brought back a painful memory for Shiwu. When Shiwu was very young, he was diagnosed with juvenile depression, but his sister asked the doctor to hide the disease. She didn't want people to speculate that she had an abnormal younger brother. Shiwu didn't have a happy childhood because his parents died early. His sister always felt that he was a burden. She didn't want him to learn to draw. She thought that art wasn't just doodles. Shiwu shouldn't mistake himself for an artist. Shiwu's sister always thought that he was an abnormal child. He should have replaced his parents. So Shiwu was caught up in obsessions. He just turned into a sick person. His sister's scoldings echoed in his head, making him feel pain. But then, Shiwu gradually calmed down. Family was precious to Ho Chon, but it meant nothing to Shiwu. Shiwu gave Ho Chon a chance to save his daughter. If Ho Chon tells Shiwu who ordered him, Sua will be safe. Ho Chon will make Shiwu promise. Shiwu also does not hesitate to make a devil's promise. In fact, Shiwu will not kill without a specific plan. Because Ho Chon seems hesitant, Shiwu wonders if he also does not know about the mastermind. If Ho Chon cannot answer, Shiwu will go find Sua. Ho Chon wants Shiwu to come back because he knows how to lure the mastermind out. On the other side, Jung-hi goes to the hospital to find her husband, but there is no patient named Ho Chon. There is also no ambulance from the police station. At that moment, patient is brought in with injuries all over his body. Jung-hi realizes that the person is the police officer who accompanied Ho Chon to the hospital. She worries and quickly calls Ho Chon, but he does not answer. She decides to run to find him. After that, Jung-hi returns to the police station to question the kidnapper. Because she suspected he knew something, he whispered in Jung-hi's ear, and then he was dragged away by the police. Suddenly, Captain Jang ordered Jung-hi to be arrested and locked up. She didn't understand what was going on and tried to resist, but she was still controlled by her colleagues and taken inside. At this time, Ho Chon followed the deal with Shiwu. Ho Chon would lure the person behind him to Shiwu. Ho Chon contacted Taemin to ask why he didn't keep his promise. Taemin also let Suah fall into the hands of Ziggler Killer. Taemin asked Ho Chon again, "Have you killed the Ziggler Killer yet? Why do you want me to keep the promise?" Ho Chon suddenly begged Taemin to save Suah, because only Taemin could help Ho Chon at this time. Taemin laughed because Ho Chon asked the kidnapper to save people, but this was also the only chance Taemin could have to meet Ziggler Killer. Ho Chon knew Shiwu's location, but Taemin didn't need Ho Chon's hand. Taemin will deal with the murderer himself. However, Ho Chon wants to fulfill his promise. Ho Chon only hopes that Taemin will keep his word. Taemin must bring Suah back in one piece. Ho Chon and Taemin agreed to continue the deal. After Ho Chon hung up, he set off to save his daughter. When Ho Chon arrived at the location designated by Shiwu, he left a voice message to his wife. If anything happened to Ho Chon, Jung-hi was to take good care of their daughter alone. Meanwhile, Jung-hi was being interrogated. Captain Jang suspected that she was the one who helped Ho Chon escape. She insisted that there was something hidden in this story. Ho Chon was definitely not the murderer. The kidnapper who had just confessed must have known something. Captain Jang asked Jung-hi not to make a fuss. Just then, someone ran in to inform him that Ho Chon's phone had just been activated. The police had located him. Captain Jang immediately set off. Jung-hi wanted to follow, but she was stopped. On the other hand, Taemin left the house to go to the meeting place, but was stopped by the police. It turned out that in his previous actions, Taemin had bribed the police to turn a blind eye. This time, when the police saw that Taemin was in a hurry, he raised the price from 2 million to 20 million won. Taemin wanted to go into the room with him to negotiate, but Taemin chose to resolve it with violence. At this time, Ho Chon came to see Shiwu. He pulled out a gun and pointed it at the murderer and asked where Suah was. It turned out that this was Ho Chon's decision, but Shiwu was not worried at all. Shiwu threatened Ho Chon that if I die here today, you will never see your daughter again. Ho Chon wanted to ask why Shiwu targeted his family. Shiwu just felt that this was an interesting game. Ho Chon should not have said Ziggler Killer, "I will catch you." Ho Chon was extremely confused when he heard that. He didn't know when he said that. It turned out that the sentence had appeared in the newspaper 2 years ago. Reporter Choi used this sentence as the title of his interview with Ho Chon. Just because of a false article, an entire family was in danger. So, reporter Choi was the real sinner. While Ho Chon was distracted, Shiwu took his gun. After the two struggled for a while, Shiwu pulled out a knife and stabbed Ho Chon, seriously injuring him. At this time, Taemin was on his way to the meeting place. When he discovered this, he was extremely worried. Shiwu found a camera on Ho Chon, so Shiwu challenged Taemin. After that, Shiwu destroyed the camera and held a knife to wait for Taemin. When Taemin arrived, he saw that Ho Chon was injured, but Taemin didn't care. He slowly walked towards Shiwu. Shiwu looked at the man in front of him and wondered, did the two of them know each other? Taemin considers Shiwu the biggest stain in his life. Because Taemin was originally a professional killer, he let someone else kill his daughter in his own house. Moreover, Taemin had to take the blame for the murderer, so now he just wants revenge. Shiwu still laughs and provokes Taemin, asking if he will successfully take revenge or will he become the one to take the blame for killing Ho Chon instead of Shiwu. Taemin is extremely angry when he hears that. Taemin starts using violence to teach Shiwu a lesson. Taemin doesn't need to take his hands out of his pockets, but he still beats Shiwu until he can't stand up. But Shiwu still laughs like a madman. Taemin grabs Shiwu's hair and pulls him up. At this time, Shiwu says that this time, Taemin is still the loser. Taemin doesn't understand the hidden meaning in those words, and he pulls out a knife to kill Shiwu. But Taemin is suddenly hit in the back of the neck by Ho Chon. It turns out that everything up until now was just a play that Shiwu had created. When Taemin saw that Shiwu could control Ho Chon, he was extremely surprised. At this time, Suah was looking for a way to escape the room. She broke the window and climbed out. Even though she was at such a height, she was not afraid, because she had made good use of the lesson her father had taught her. Ho Chon had said that if Suah focused, there was nothing she could not do. She mustered up all her courage and jumped down. Then she went around to find help. She discovered a public phone booth, so she quickly called the police for help. After that, she asked the police to call her mother. However, the person on the other end of the line did not realize that she was panicking and asked her to recount the incident in detail. Meanwhile, Sua was kidnapped again. At this time, Shiwu picked up the knife and put it in Ho Chon's hand. Shiwu asked Ho Chon to deal with Taemin. Ho Chon was extremely hesitant in this situation. Taemin reminded Ho Chon whether this choice was correct or not. Ho Chon could not answer that question. Just then, the police arrived. Ho Chon had to lead Shiwu to run ahead. When the police arrived at the scene, only Taemin was there. He hid what had just happened from the police. However, they discovered blood on the back of his neck. At that moment, the police announced that they had found Ho Chon's movements, so the police had to ignore Taemin and immediately chased after the wanted person. Taemin was extremely angry after what just happened, so he also wanted to find Ho Chon and Shiwu to take revenge. At this time, Ho Chon helped Shiwu escape from the police. He wondered when he would see his daughter. Shiwu said that he just had to get out of here and Ho Chon's daughter would return safely. Ho Chon chose to trust Shiwu instead of Taemin, so now he had no choice but to. Ho Chon showed Shiwu the fire escape. Ho Chon would lure the police. Shiwu quickly left. Ho Chon found another way out. He banged on the door to attract the police's attention and sneaked into a room. He wanted to climb through the fire escape. He used his firefighter skills to swing out of the building. The police quickly discovered Ho Chon. They tried to pull him up. However, he quickly unbuckled his seatbelt. Luckily, he was still able to land safely. When Ho Chon saw Shiwu coming out of the building, he decided to run another way to distract the police. Shiwu successfully took the car and escaped. Meanwhile, the police lost track of both of them. A while later, Ho Chon arrived at the location Shiwu had indicated. However, there was only a mannequin there, not Sua. Ho Chon was fooled by Shiwu again. At this time, Shiwu returned to the room, but Ho Chon's daughter had escaped. Shiwu angrily threw the saw back. He was disappointed that he couldn't complete his masterpiece. Suddenly, he received a call from Ho Chon. Ho Chon angrily shouted and asked where Sua was. Now, even Shiwu didn't know where she was. He was regretting letting her run away, so he didn't want to talk to Ho Chon anymore. Ho Chon tried to call Shiwu but couldn't. Surprisingly, Ho Chon received a text message containing Sua's photo. Then Taemin called Ho Chon. It turned out that the person who found Sua was Taemin's subordinate. Taemin told Ho Chon that his choice was wrong, so he wouldn't be able to see his daughter again. Ho Chon still wanted another chance, but Taemin hated traitors. Ho Chon provoked Taemin and said that his family wasn't Taemin's target. Taemin's real enemy was Ziggler Killer. Doesn't Taemin want to catch his enemy? Taemin remembered his great hatred, so Taemin agreed to give Ho Chon one last chance. But this time, there would be a time limit. Ho Chon only had 30 minutes to bring the murderer. After saying that, Taemin immediately hung up. Taemin did not give Ho Chon a chance to negotiate. Ho Chon acted hastily, but he did not go to find Shiwu, but went to the attic room. It turned out that before Dongju died, he had mentioned the two words attic to Ho Chon. At this time, Ho Chon used a lighter to activate the fire alarm, so the manager had to activate the emergency exit. Taking that opportunity, Ho Chon broke inside. He discovered the body of the police officer there. After the police officer demanded 20 million won, he was dealt with by Taemin. Unexpectedly, Ho Chon received a phone call from Taemin. Taemin asked Ho Chon why he said he was going to find the murderer, but why did he come to my room? Ho Chon confirmed that Taemin was also a murderer. Based on the scene in the room, Ho Chon threatened to call the police to search Taemin's place, so Taemin had to go back. However, Taemin insisted that Ho Chon did not trust the police. Otherwise, he would have called the police as soon as he knew his daughter was kidnapped. Ho Chon wanted to see his daughter. At this point, Taemin no longer hid from Ho Chon. Taemin showed Ho Chon the photo he found in Shiwu's room. From the beginning, Sua had become Shiwu's next target. If she had not been in Taemin's hands, she would probably be in Ziggler Killer's collection. Even if Ho Chon returned to Ho Chon, as long as Shiwu was free outside, she would not be safe. Because once Shiwu made his plan, his prey would definitely die. If Ho Chon wanted his daughter back and continued to live in peace, he had to help Taemin kill Shiwu. Taemin wanted to use Sua as bait to lure Shiwu out. Then Ho Chon would end it all himself. However, he wanted to use his daughter as bait to lure Shiwu. Ho Chon wrote an anonymous article to direct public opinion. The article said that Ho Chon was the real Ziggler Killer and the person accompanying him was just an accomplice. Reporter Choi took that opportunity to report. He analyzed the reason why Ziggler Killer only targeted women. Because the killer was a weak and cowardly person, he did not dare to act with strong men. Those words insulted Shiwu's self-esteem. He always thought that he was better than others. He considered speaking ill of others a pleasure. But now Shiwu has become a weak and cowardly person. Moreover, his reputation was also robbed by Ho Chon. Shiwu definitely would not forgive Ho Chon. Everything was not beyond Ho Chon's prediction. After Shiwu saw the news, he was extremely angry. Shiwu wanted to find Ho Chon to settle the grudge. But first, he had to deal with the reporter who made up the story. Shiu pretended to be a witness and said he found the Guzu delivery suit. Then, Shiu made an appointment with reporter Choi to meet him to deliver the suit. This time, Shiu would kill that man, to see if reporter Choi still dared to say he was weak. When Shiu learned reporter Choi's address, he immediately set off. When he arrived, Shiu picked up the suit and placed it outside the door. As soon as reporter Choi appeared, Shiu immediately rushed over and dragged him into the room. Then, Shiu tied reporter Choi up. Shiu forced reporter Choi to livestream and admit that Ziggler Killer's method of killing was a masterpiece. But everyone didn't understand what reporter Choi was saying. They only saw him sweating and panicking. He announced that this was his last time reporting. He suddenly cried and begged for his life. But Shiu was still unmoved. Shiu killed reporter Choi with a fatal slash. It was a tragic end for someone who only knew how to make up stories. After Shiu finished his work, he hurriedly left the house. The next person Shiu wanted to find was Ho Chon. Shiu called Ho Chon to make an appointment to meet him, but Shiu heard Taemin's voice. Shiu realized that the two were working together, so he wondered and asked Ho Chon if Sua was kidnapped by Taemin again. Ho Chon didn't know what to say. Shiu immediately hung up. Ho Chon called back but couldn't get through. At this moment, Taemin received a notice that someone had come to find him. That person was driving a car with license plate 3742. Taemin asked the security guard to let that person in. Ho Chon realized that Sua might be in the car. He carefully observed through the security camera. After the subordinate passed through the security checkpoint, he drove down to the basement. Ho Chon wanted to go down there to check. He fooled Taemin into thinking he would go outside and wait for Shiu to show up. Because Taemin was in a hurry, he didn't have much time to think. Taemin ordered Ho Chon that if he couldn't wait for Shiu, he had to come back in 30 minutes. Taemin also didn't forget to remind Ho Chon that Sua was in his hands now. Ho Chon pretended to understand and then left. He sneaked down to the underground parking lot to look for the car with license plate 3742. When Ho Chon discovered the car was moving, he immediately informed the security guard that there was something unusual about the car that was about to leave. The security guard immediately stopped the car to check, but he had no intention of cooperating. This made the security guard's suspicions increase even more. They insisted on opening the trunk. Unexpectedly, there was a man's body inside. Taemin handed the policeman's body over to his subordinates to handle. Unfortunately, he was discovered by the building's security guard. The police quickly arrived to investigate. Ho Chon stood aside and breathed a sigh of relief because the body wasn't his daughter's. Meanwhile, Jung-hi was in the cell. She wanted to go out, but no police dared to let her go. Only when Captain Jang returned did he open the door for Jung-hi. Because the special investigation team had just received news that Jung-hi's daughter had called, Captain Jang played the recording of the call for Jung-hi. She wasn't sure if it was Sua's voice or not. Jung-hi remembered that her daughter had an art class today, so she immediately called Shiu, but he lied and said that Sua was here. Jung-hi wanted to pick up her daughter. Shiu continued to lie that he had a special class today, so he wouldn't be teaching in the room. Then, Shiu told Jung-hi the address to pick up her daughter. If Shiu couldn't catch Ho Chon's daughter, he would take Ho Chon's wife as a hostage. Thinking of this, Shiu smiled dangerously. Jung-hi immediately wanted to go to Shiwu's place, but Captain Jang wanted to stop her because the situation was very complicated. However, Jung-hi insisted on confirming that her daughter was still safe. Captain Jang had to send a subordinate to accompany Jung-hi. On the way, Jung-hi suddenly received a call from her colleague. Minso had just woken up and wanted to see Jung-hi immediately, but Jung-hi was on her way to pick up her daughter, so Jung-hi made an appointment to go to the hospital later. Suddenly, Jung-hi remembered what Minso said before she was hospitalized. Minso suspected that the artist who moved to the building 7 months ago was Ziggler Killer. Coincidentally, this characteristic matched Shiu. While Jung-hi was confused, she received a call from Shiu. He met her at the entrance of the building to send Sua back. After Shiu hung up, he called Ho Chon. Because Ho Chon had betrayed him, Shiu wanted to give him a gift. Shiu asked Ho Chon to come to the entrance of the building to receive it. A moment later, Jung-hi met Shiu in front of the gate, but he did not bring her daughter. He was still holding a knife and waiting. At this time, Jung-hi confirmed her guess that Shiu was the person Minso had mentioned. Jung-hi rushed to catch Shiu, but he deceived her that her daughter was in his hands. Jung-hi was immediately controlled by Shiu. She was handcuffed and taken to the car. At that moment, Ho Chon ran over, but he could only watch his wife become a hostage. Shiu called Ho Chon and said that he was now standing between two choices, saving his wife or his daughter. At this time, Ho Chon was standing between two very difficult choices. Both of them were his most beloved people. Shiu wanted Ho Chon to bring Sua to him, because what Shiu needed was Sua's perfect hands, not Jung-hi's life. Shiu, only gave a suggestion, and the final choice belonged to Ho Chon. Jung-hi signaled that there were police on the other side so she would be fine. Ho Chon should take care of his daughter. Shiwoo then hung up and drove Jung-hi away. Jung-hi sat in the car and wondered where Shiwoo was taking her. He quickly realized that she was signaling her teammates, and he also discovered that someone was following her. He then took her to a hotel. His subordinates immediately informed Captain Jang that Jung-hi had become a hostage. Captain Jang ordered his subordinates not to lose track of Jung-hi. Officer Lee immediately got out of the car and followed them to the motel. However, he discovered that the motel had a back door. As a result, he lost track of Jung-hi. He quickly informed Captain Jang of this. At this time, Shiwoo took Jung-hi to an abandoned house. He threw her to the ground and took off her hood. Jung-hi asked where her daughter was. Shiwoo sarcastically said that Jung-hi and her husband were very similar because they only cared about their families. Jung-hi immediately objected that people without a family like him could not understand. That sentence touched Shiwoo's heart. He angrily held a knife and threatened Jung-hi. But now was not the time for her to die because she could exchange it for something more important to him. He wanted to turn Sua into a part of his collection. Shiwoo accidentally discovered the digital watch on Jung-hi's hand. He seemed to understand that she was trying to send her location to her husband. Shiwoo also guessed that Ho Chon was on his way here. Shiwoo calmly waited for Ho Chon to come. However, Jung-hi said that she knew Shiwoo was scared, so he acted crazy. Everything did not go according to the scenario he had thought of, so he left a stain on the picture he thought was perfect. Ziggler Killer had never killed a man before, but now it happened. Moreover, Shiwoo failed because he let the victim survive. Shiwoo angrily grabbed Jung-hi and asked her what she meant. Jung-hi told him that Minso was still alive, but Shiwoo laughed and thought that Jung-hi was trying to manipulate him. But Jung-hi calmly told him to check Google. Shiwoo also decided to check online, and he saw that the news that Minso was alive had spread a few hours ago. Shiwoo angrily hung Jung-hi up. He planned to lock her in the room. He would go fix his mistake. At this time, Ho Chon came here according to Jung-hi's location. He picked up a brick and rushed into the abandoned house to search. Here, Ho Chon discovered the handcuffs. Jung-hi had successfully escaped. However, Ho Chon also found the paintings in Shiwoo's work. They were assembled from many body parts. The only part missing was the left hand. Ho Chon realized that the position was for his daughter. Ho Chon angrily destroyed all the paintings. At this moment, he suddenly received a call from his wife. She was still safe and following Shiwoo. She told him to find their daughter. She would definitely catch the murderer. He agreed to his wife's suggestion. At the same time, he told her to be careful. She also reminded him of the same thing and hung up. After that, Ho Chon called Taemin to inform him that the subordinate and the body in the car had been arrested by the police. The police were going to the attic to search because they knew the subordinate came to find Taemin. Ho Chon asked Taemin to leave the room. He immediately complied. As soon as Taemin left, the police arrived. At this time, Taemin realized that Ho Chon was not lying to him. Taemin had escaped down the stairs. Downstairs, Ho Chon called the manager and told him something. The manager immediately led 2 guards to the attic. When he saw the police preparing to break the door, he was extremely panicked. Because the door was very expensive, the manager requested a search warrant, but the police could not issue a search warrant. The manager immediately ordered the guests to leave. After everyone left, Ho Chon appeared. He took the police equipment left behind and broke down the door of the attic. After Ho Chon entered, he borrowed a security camera to check. He discovered that Sua did not enter the building with Taemin's subordinate, so Ho Chon assumed that his daughter was still in the basement. He immediately went to the underground parking lot. When the manager saw Taemin going down the hall, he immediately approached and started a conversation. It turned out that Ho Chon had pretended to be Taemin. He then asked the manager to chase the police out of the attic. At this time, Taemin realized that something was wrong, so he quickly left. Taemin received a notification that Ho Chon had broken into the room. Taemin hurried back to the penthouse and found that all the security cameras were turned off. He wanted to restart them, but couldn't, so he felt extremely angry. At this time, he received a phone call from the prison informing him that he only had 2 hours left until his prison term ended. The police would come to pick him up. This made Taemin even more worried. Taemin called Ho Chon and asked what he wanted to do. Taemin even threatened Sua's life. But Ho Chon was no longer afraid because he was currently in the underground parking lot. Ho Chon remembered the route of Taemin's subordinates. He followed that direction and discovered a restricted area. At this moment, Sua's phone rang. Sua's friend wondered what she was doing in the basement. Only now did the phone that the male student gave Sua come into use. He called, but Sua was tied up, so she couldn't pick up the phone. So the new male student called the girl's old phone. When Ho Chon learned that the male student was going to the basement, he found a light. Perhaps this was an important clue that would help him find his daughter. On the other side, the police were confused about where Jung-hi was taken. Suddenly, she returned to the station and reported that Minso was in danger. The police immediately set off. They had to act quickly because Shiwu had arrived at the hospital. He pretended to be a doctor and went to Minso's room. After Shiwu overheard the conversation between the two guards, he learned that it was thanks to Ho Chon's first aid that Minso was able to survive. This made Shiwu hate Ho Chon even more. After Shiwu broke into Minso's room, he immediately strangled her. Minso was just waiting for this moment, and she immediately pulled out a pen and stabbed Shiwu in the hand. Now she had his DNA sample. Outside, the police force was entering the hospital. The place was surrounded. Shiwu had taken a policeman hostage. Shiwu stabbed the police officer and returned him to his teammates. After that, Shiwu took the opportunity to escape. Luckily, he took the car to escape. Unexpectedly, Taemin was the one who helped Shiwu deal with the police. After that, Taemin also took the car to chase Shiwu. At this time, Jung-hi was reviewing the serial murder case because she wanted to find more evidence to accuse the Ziggler Killer. The number of his victims was not 4, but 11. In the collection at Shiwu's house, there were 11 body parts. Only the left hand was missing to complete the set. Jung-hi realized that her daughter was being targeted. If the police continued to let Ziggler Killer escape, Sua would be in danger. So Jung-hi decided to go and catch him herself. When Jung-hi went outside, she saw the police escorting Taemin's subordinate. Through their words, Jung-hi knew that the police officer was murdered in her building. The scene was most likely the attic room. Jung-hi suddenly remembered the words of the kidnapper last time. He also whispered the word attic in her ear. In addition, the police officer once told Jung-hi that he was supervising a released prisoner. That person lived in the attic. This made Jung-hi even more certain that the prisoner was involved in these troubles. Unexpectedly, Taemin's subordinate called Jung-hi back. Then he whispered a secret in her ear that he knew where her daughter was. She had to negotiate with him. If she uncuffed him, he would tell her where her daughter was. In return, Jung-hi had to find a way to prevent Taemin from getting out of prison again. Everyone thought the two were accomplices, but in fact, he had intended to betray his master for a long time. So Jung-hi and Taemin's subordinate came to an agreement. However, when Jung-hi got her daughter's position, she asked the police to capture Taemin's subordinate. He was extremely angry because he had been tricked. Jung-hi also promised him that she would not let him and Taemin stay in the same prison. After that, Jung-hi set out to find her daughter. At this time, the male student had come to Ho Chon. Although the boy knew that Ho Chon was a criminal, he had heard a lot about Sua's father, so he knew that Ho Chon was not a murderer. He explained the situation to Ho Chon. The phone he secretly put in Sua's bag had a location app installed. Based on that, he confirmed that Sua was in this basement. Ho Chon only needed to know up to here, and then he told the male student to go back first to ensure safety. When Ho Chon received the message, he immediately went to Ponsel and received a few items. Ponsel wanted to go with Ho Chon to solve the problem, but Ho Chon remembered Dongju's ending. He did not want Ponsel to be in danger, so he decided to go alone. When he arrived at the chemical room, he heard a noise inside. He immediately called out to his daughter. She also tried to answer. He tried to break the door to get in. Then he ran to his daughter. He was extremely happy to see his daughter again, but he did not forget to comfort her. At this time, Shiwu returned home and discovered that the paintings were damaged. At this time, he was extremely angry. He was determined to find Ho Chon to take revenge. When Shiwu discovered that the police were coming, he tried to escape, but he was caught by Taemin. Shiwu knew that Taemin had helped him in the hospital, so he thought that Taemin would not kill him. However, Taemin just did not want anyone to catch Shiwu first. Taemin pulled out a knife and grabbed Shiwu's neck. Taemin did not expect Shiwu to be this weak. Taemin thought that he could end everything. Shiwu suddenly shouted to stop. That sound attracted the attention of the police. Taemin had to drag Shiwu into hiding first so that he would not be discovered by the police. Unexpectedly, the two villains later cooperated. They went to Ho Chon and his daughter together. Shiwu made a deal that he wanted Taemin to give him more time to complete his masterpiece. At the same time, Shiwu would help Taemin kill Ho Chon. After Shiwu completed his masterpiece, he would become the greatest murderer in the world. At that time, Taemin could kill him to become a greater person. For Taemin, Shiwu was the only stain on his career. Shiwu had to die no matter what, but right now, he was just an ordinary murderer, so killing him would only dirty Taemin's hands. In the end, Taemin decided to agree to this proposal. Now, he was the one controlling the game. Back in reality, Ho Chon was extremely surprised by the cooperation of the two demons. Taemin still told Ho Chon that the mission he gave Ho Chon still had time to complete. That meant Taemin wouldn't interfere in Shiwu and Ho Chon's fight. Ho Chon pulled Sua behind him. Shiwu took out his weapon, but he attacked Taemin, who had just given him the chance. Although Taemin was a professional assassin, he was extremely unintelligent. Not only was Taemin betrayed by Ho Chon, but now he was also tricked by Shiwu to the point of almost losing his life. Taemin angrily rushed to attack Shiwu, but he was hit by some iron chains. Shiwu madly hit Taemin. Ho Chon took that opportunity to lead Suah away. After Shiwu finished off Taemin, he chased after Ho Chon. Shiwu had followed them to the rooftop. Ho Chon hid his daughter in a corner and then rushed out to lure Shiwu, but Shiwu insisted on finding Suah. Ho Chon wanted to know the reason. Shiwu also didn't hesitate to tell Ho Chon that he had to complete his masterpiece. It was a masterpiece created from 12 body parts. Ho Chon criticized Shiwu as a pervert, but he thought he was a great artist. Shiwu was proud that because of him, his victims could enjoy fame. If people did not mention Ziggler Killer, the girls he killed would all be unknown people in society. However, for Ho Chon, Shiwu was just a pitiful person. Because Shiwu saw himself as unknown, he tried every way to make himself known. Shiwu was extremely angry when he heard that. He wanted to show Ho Chon that he was superior to others. Shiwu pulled out a knife and rushed into the fight with Ho Chon. Shiwu pressed Ho Chon against the wall. When Suah saw her father in danger, she panicked and accidentally made a sound. Shiwu immediately left Ho Chon and rushed to grab her. However, he discovered that her left hand was injured. It turned out that it was all Taemin's plan. He wanted to see Shiwu's disappointed face when he couldn't complete the work. That's why Taemin agreed to negotiate. Shiwu was extremely angry, but he was suddenly attacked by Taemin. How could a professional killer like Taemin be easily defeated? Taking advantage of the two killers' fight, Ho Chon hurriedly took his daughter and escaped. After Taemin finished off Shiwu, he blocked Ho Chon's way. Originally, killers would not leave witnesses alive. Whether Ho Chon listened or not, Taemin could not let him escape death. Ho Chon quickly threw a smoke bomb to blind Taemin for a while. Then he found a way to drop his daughter down. After the smoke cleared, Taemin discovered Ho Chon was running away. Taemin immediately went to Ho Chon. Ho Chon desperately stopped Taemin so Suah could have more time to run away. Taemin quickly defeated Ho Chon and pulled up the rope, but the rope was just a diversion. Suah had already escaped through the emergency exit. She listened to her father's instructions. She ran straight out the building's gate, where someone would come pick her up. Ho Chon also told Pansok to wait there. At this time, Jung-hi went to the location designated by Taemin's subordinate, but there were only bloodstains on the floor. No one was there anymore. Jung-hi continued to go up to the attic room, but she didn't discover anything new. There were only security cameras that had been turned off. At this time, Jung-hi implicitly understood how her husband had been controlled. Suddenly, Jung-hi received a notice that her superiors asked her to go down to Shiwu's room. They wanted Jung-hi to determine whether Shiwu's work in this room was the same as what she had seen. Indeed, this work was very similar, but this was a real model, not a drawing. One thing that made Jung-hi wonder was whether the work Shiwu was referring to was these exhibits or the paintings from last time. Jung-hi speculated that if Ziggler Killer still left the sample here, he would definitely come back. Captain Jang told his subordinates to lie in ambush around the room. They had to wait for Shiwu to appear to arrest him. A while later, the police received a report from Pansok that he had found Suah, but Ho Chon was still on the rooftop. When the police heard the news, they immediately rushed to the scene. At this time, Ho Chon realized that Taemin was bleeding profusely, so Ho Chon helped Taemin stop the bleeding. This action made him very confused. Taemin wondered why he was trying to kill Ho Chon, but Ho Chon saved him. Ho Chon explained that he did it because of his conscience as a firefighter. Ho Chon wanted to call an ambulance, but Taemin was an assassin, so he did not allow himself to accept help. Taemin only told Ho Chon that it was not over yet, because Shiwu was not completely dead. He gradually regained consciousness and rushed towards Ho Chon with a knife. Luckily, Taemin took the knife for Ho Chon. He was converted by Ho Chon, but there was still a devil standing there. Shiwu started Ho Chon to pull out his knife, but Ho Chon knew that if he did, Taemin would die immediately. Shiwu asked Ho Chon what he was trying to do. Was Ho Chon saving the person who wanted to kill him? At this time, Ho Chon taught Shiwu a valuable lesson. Maybe for him, killing someone was great, but for Ho Chon, saving someone was extraordinary. Killing someone was easy, but saving someone was difficult. At this moment, the police arrived, so Shiwu was scared and quickly ran away. Taemin reminded Ho Chon that as long as Shiwu was alive, everything was not over. The police came to Ho Chon and called an ambulance for Taemin. Taking that opportunity, Taemin sneaked out and hid in the car. With wounds all over his body, Shiwu was in pain, but when he saw the blood, he regained his excitement. Shiwu had to finish his work. He brought the paintings to the square. He believed that tomorrow, when everyone woke up, they would see his greatest work. However, this work had one flaw, which was the left hand. Shiwu wondered where he could find a pair of perfect hands. Shiwu looked at his hands and realized that he was a perfect person. Therefore, his body parts all matched the picture. Shiwu did not hesitate to take an axe and cut his left hand and use it as a model. He also used his own blood as paint. Finally, Shiwu completed his masterpiece. At this time, Ho Chon also arrived. Ho Chon realized that Shiwu was still trying to complete his sick work. Ho Chon wanted to put out the evil fire with a fireman's hose. He washed away the works. This action turned Shiwu's efforts into nothing. He looked at Ho Chon with an angry look. Shiwu threw an axe at Ho Chon, but now he had no strength left. Ho Chon told Shiwu that everything was over, but Shiwu denied it. He thought that Ho Chon's actions were bringing him back to the starting point. Then, Shiwu would use his next life to complete his unfinished work. He would have to live in prison for the rest of his life. At this time, the police came to arrest Shiwu, but they saw him smiling. Although Shiwu could not let others see him, he had completed his greatest work. The Ziggler Killer case finally came to an end. Everyone returned to their normal lives with peace of mind. The two murderers, both mentally ill, were put in the same prison. Shiwu was still obsessed with creating his masterpiece. Meanwhile, Tae-min was obsessed with killing his enemies. That night, Tae-min went to Shiwu's room and killed him. Ho Chon had a happy life with his wife and daughter. Good people always receive their just rewards. That's it for today. See you in the next clips.